Here we go.
Yo, 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 it's your man's Big Daddy Roughneck. You're tuned into the Gary Brugman Podcast. Prepare to be entertained.
Hello, Texas, and hello, America. Welcome to episode 94 of the Gary Brugman Podcast. I got my special friend Gil here with me tonight. We're going to talk about all kinds of stuff going on. So I highly recommend y'all hold on to something tight because we're going to be bouncing off all kinds of guardrails today. So let's get to it. What is up, Gil? Good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, brother. It's good to see you.
Dude, it is great to see you as usual. Talk to you on the phone. Been talking for a couple of years now, and dude, you came into my life just like out of the blue. So
yes,
and you know they say blessings come in weird ways. So I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being here today. This is a special episode of the Gary Brugman Podcast, episode 94, and I got my brother Gil Maza here. And he is the CEO. I like calling him CEO of O Patrol HQ. O Patrol HQ is a Border Patrol website about all things Border Patrol, man. And you're gonna love it, man. Good morning, sir.
good morning, brother. Before we get started here, I just wanted to say that mention that today we woke up with a punch in the gut. Another agent out of RGB sector has committed suicide, and man, I can't tell you. You feel that emptiness, that punch in the soul, in the gut, and I just wanted to extend our prayers and our deepest sympathies to the families. I know it's all new right now; that you haven't put anything out, but every agent that dies by suicide, man, is just a black mark on our spirit.
Right, and it leaves a big hole in my heart because, once we're green, we're always green, no matter what. O Patrol, New Patrol, doesn't matter. But
Yes.
what I'm gonna do, Gil? What I'm gonna do? I had a dedication for this podcast. I'll do that on the next one. We're gonna dedicate this podcast to our fallen brother down in RGV. So
right.
This podcast is for you, brother. So this is a special
Amen,
episode.
brother.
This is a special episode of the Gary Brugman Podcast. As you can see, I don't have my regular hooligans here with me. Big Daddy Roughneck still recovering from what he's been going through, which we still don't know what he's been going through. They can't figure it out. But he's doing better. He's home now and recovering. They think the chemo might have awakened something that might have been dormant. They don't know. He may be anemic. His legs swelled up. He was doing real bad, but he's better now and he's home. And Angry Kev is out being pissed off somewhere at somebody, something, somewhere. I don't know. But he's out there.
To be pissed about.
Yeah, exactly, brother, exactly. So, but we do have you here today, and you've been a friend of mine for a couple of years now, and you just retired from the Border Patrol after 25 years. And like I said, you're the founder and CEO of O Patrol HQ. And you're a personal friend of mine, and you've been banned in over 20 sectors. So how did that happen, But we're going to get into that. Dude, give us a little bit of Border Patrol history since they've been around since a different breed since 1924.
Since 1924. Well, first of all, when the Border Patrol started out back in 1924, it started out with a bunch of roughnecks, same as, and it's been that way ever since, right? We've been the outcasts, the bastard stepchildren,
Yes, sir.
right, of the federal government, and the Border Patrol was populated by guys. I mean, if you remember the requirements to join the Border Patrol in those days, you had to be a certain size, you had to be a certain weight, had to have all your teeth. You got paid $1,628 a year with 1 day off a month, right? You had to bring your own horse. And
Your own gun.
they would provide hay for you. In some cases, your own gun. Eventually, they got uniforms, and we developed as we went. So we come from a rich heritage, a rich history. We carry with us from then till today. The agent, even today, carries with him that legacy, right? With a few shenanigans along the way.
Of course.
So,
That always happens.
Yes.
So-
and that's what we're known for. That's what we're famous for. But I had exhausted all my options. I was 30 years old. I was trying a little bit of everything. Nothing really worked out. And then someone once told me I was working a dead-end job, and somebody said, hey, the Border Patrol's applying. And I grew up in Douglas, Arizona. Right next to Agua Prieta, which, you know, and I had never seen or heard of the Border Patrol. Never saw, you know, I remember.
You lived in Douglas and you never heard of the Border Patrol.
Yes. I remember crossing parts of the fence on the international border that were just barbed wire to go party at 16 in one of the clubs. Go back and forth all
on the other side?
Visit family. Yes.
On the Mike side? Oh, wow.
Never saw an agent, never saw a vehicle, nothing. I mean, the only experience I had with immigration was going through the port of entry and saying, you know, American citizen.
Mm-hmm.
And that was basically it. You just got on through. So it was a new job for me. And it turned out to be the best job I never knew I wanted, and the best job I ever had. And so as I joined and my career developed, you know,
which session were you in?
What's that?
Which session were you?
Oh, okay. I was in class 313 back in 1996.
313, okay.
1996, yeah. So I was an average agent at best. I was a team player. I was an average agent. You know, I wasn't that killer out there. I mean, you know, dragging, not like you. Not, you know, I hear your stories, you know.
Yeah, obviously. But, you didn't get sent to prison.
Yeah. Some of them still under statute of limitations, right?
Yes.
And we still don't know. Well, you know where the bodies are buried, but we'll never know.
I don't know nothing.
Yes, you'll never tell.
Exactly.
And so as my career developed, one of the things I am very proud of is the fact that I started the sector chaplaincy team for San Diego sector. Now, there was a chaplaincy program, and the gentleman that ran it, the agent, was Brian Henderson, and he was a good man and a good chaplain, and he cared about the people in the agency he worked for. When I came along and they asked me to start running the program, I realized I couldn't do it by myself, so I needed a team. So we set up that team. So whatever I wasn't as far as a superb agent, I did excel in taking care of my fellow agents and saving their lives and protecting their lives. And that's what my job primarily became for the most part until the day I retired. So it's been a good run, a good career. I got to do a lot of great things in the patrol. But I started 3 years before I retired, I started Old Patrol HQ for two reasons. The first reason is, yes, I am a filthy capitalist, and I'm not going to apologize for that.
You shouldn't have to. That's what we're based on.
That's right.
That's what makes America great.
Is that, yes, I wanted to actively maintain and preserve the history and heritage and legacy of the patrol, our mythology, our epicness, you know, the best law enforcement agency on the planet, the things we have done and accomplished, preserve the old time, knowledge and information and war stories, and just laugh about, you know, our funny stuff, right? Stealing each other's lunches, trading mag lights,
stealing each other's cowboy hats, John Parham. So I used to ride my bicycle to work every morning, and just to get some exercise before I got there. And it was about 3 miles, so it was just a quick little ride. And I'd have my uniform and everything in my locker, and I'd take a shower at the station, get ready, and go to muster. So this new guy, who's actually one of my best friends, big Borstar agent, John Parham. They were working a checkpoint, and they told him, and you had to wear a cowboy hat at the checkpoint. He's like, well, I don't have one. I was like, oh, go take that one on top of the locker. and I like this guy. He was a combat medic. He's a big dude, and I knew he was going to be a good agent. But I went into work next day. My hat's gone, and then he had left it at his house. So I go to work next day, and I go into muster. I'm like, who the fuck stole my cowboy hat? And he sat there, and he was like, uh-oh. He's like, sir, it was me. And I looked at him, I was like, why'd it have to be you? You know?
Of course. Of course.
But he got it back to me. And they set him up for failure because they told him to go take it because they knew it was mine. You know, shenanigans.
Yes, it was yours.
So
Yep. And so one of the best decisions I made at the academy was to get myself right away as a trainee one of those old timer vests.
yes,
Right, because no matter what, even back then, anybody wearing those vests they treated you like a senior agent.
right.
So even as a nug coming into the station, I would wear that vest, and people would confuse me for a senior agent.
The
And
rough
be
duty
like,
vest.
Maza, you want me to help you process these bodies for you? And I'd be like, yeah, go ahead. Until one day I got caught with that. And my FTO man, he railed me upside one and down the other. But and then I also initially bought that new cowboy hat. Mm-hmm. And I remember many times, the few times I was out there in the field working traffic and chasing traffic, they'd be like, agent in the cowboy hat, go left, go right, whatever. And then all the agents, right? I'm sorry, all the aliens assuming you're a Texan.
Right. They feared us Texas agents back then, didn't they?
They fear the Texicans. So you know what? I didn't mind them thinking I was from Texas, because that just gave me that field cred, and it mellowed them out. So it was a epic career, Gary, and I got to do the Explorer program along with the chaplaincy program. I was able to participate in Police Week for about 7 years in a row. 2 of those years, I was incident commander of the entire thing, running it under my A chiefs there at DC. And that's one thing I can say that positively that I excelled at was, I dealt with suicide in almost every situation, from just thinking about it to agents actually in the bar drinking themselves to the point where they can walk outside to their car and pull the trigger. And
again, as PAs, we can drink.
yes. And so I was able to see that whole, work on that whole process with a lot of agents. And the beauty of it is that nobody ever found out. I know agents out there that went back to become soups, become chiefs, get promoted, because we kept that circle of confidence so small and so tight knit that we were able to reach out to them, talk to them, get them the help they needed, and with the help of the station supervisors, even at some point station PACs, I would say, listen. I know what you're supposed to do, but for the best part of it, for what this agent needs to get back into his job and back onto his life, we got to keep this as tight knit as possible. And I got to say, and I did have a lot of great PACs that worked with me personally, because they trusted me. If I said this person needed that, or I needed something, most of the time I wasn't even questioned. And so, having that background, and now, the retirement is just tremendous. I'm so grateful to God and to the Border Patrol, because now I enjoy a life with my wife and my grandkids that I had never dreamed possible. And that's one of the ways I try to encourage today's agents that are, you and I see it, and we're going to talk a lot about it. Mm-hmm. They're being run through the ringer. They're being put through the ringer. And anybody out there, and I'll say this categorically, and I'll probably get blasted for it, that says they've seen this before, that they've seen what's going on now before, are dead wrong. Right. Dead wrong. Not since the history of the patrol or the history of America has a smuggling event of epic proportions being facilitated by the president and everybody under him.
And that's the key thing right there, because we've seen surges. We've had surges where we've caught 750 per shift, and it's been, and we've had to call agents in so that they don't overrun the station. Yes. But nothing like what the government's facilitating now. We still had to enforce the laws. We just had surges coming in, but nothing like what's going now, where we're just letting them go and,
Not just that, but this immigration, crisis, not a surge, a crisis. And I wish, people would get that, including our chief would get that, that's why he's having such a hard time maintaining credibility, because he has yet to admit that this is a crisis. He went on Fox News, nationwide TV, and told everybody it was a surge and humanitarian push. Right? What does that do to the agents on the ground that have seen all the backside of the dirty shenanigans they're pulling to brush out their tracks? Exactly. plane loads of bodies sent all over the country, shuffling bodies from one station to another so that when the dignitaries or the 1012s or the VIPs from DC come, they see empty cells, clean cells, a clean station. We used to do that before, right? Everybody would be like, hey,
so-and-so's coming, clean up the station.
In your area. Don't get caught sleeping. Stay in your area, and we cleaned up the station.
Right.
But to brush out bodies that of stations that are at 1,000% capacity is a disservice now. It is a disservice to the agents that are drowning in this situation, Gary.
Especially since most of these people are not vetted, not vaccinated. They're putting us through the ringer for not being vaccinated. Well, I say us because I'm still green. They put us through the ringer because we're not vaccinated, threaten us with our jobs and everything.
Yes.
But then they're letting everybody in without being vaccinated. So and
so when people say I've seen this before, okay, so you've seen every immigration record broken and then some. Right now, we're on track to double the 2 million from last year.
Right.
To double in January, it was double the numbers coming in. We had more people come in January than were deported last year.
Right.
That were deported last year. So to say that you've seen those numbers before, well, you're lying. You haven't. That's not the facts. To say that you've gone through a pandemic where 70% of the people coming in are positive, test positive for COVID, right? So we're dealing with a pandemic. You're dealing with a vaccine mandate that was forced on the agents, force-fed to the agents, and everybody said to them, upper management, union, we can't do a thing about it. So what did the agents do? At great sacrifice and cost to themselves, they got lawyers and got it done themselves.
Exactly.
No help whatsoever. So you haven't seen that. Okay. And then a completely open border policy, and it is completely open border policy.
Sure is.
Much of the border left completely unattended. The cartels are having a field day, laughing at our faces. They put a baby in the middle of the road. Our agents almost run over the baby in an ATV, so that and that ends up taking all the manpower in the station, and the rest, they just walk in and, fentanyl through the roof, smuggling loads through the roof, dope through the roof. Why? Because we can't do the job we were set up to do because we're too busy facilitating. Right? Because this administration doesn't want to stop, Gary, doesn't want to stop the flow. It encourages.
Because it's real easy to do that if they wanted to stop the flow. And they don't need new laws. They don't need more agents. All they got to do is let the agents we have enforce the laws that we have and do our jobs, and we will shut it right the hell down. Because we've done it. You and me both done it before.
Yes, they don't want to stop it.
Of course they don't.
Stop it. They want to facilitate it. So what's their solution? What's been the chief's solution? What's been Mamonka's solution? Throw more bodies at it. Bodies at it. So what are we doing? We're dragging the northern border agents down. They're going on detail, Gary, every other month. Now,
for how long?
I remember going on detail, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah.
45 days of per diem, of working traffic in strange lands, boldly going where no man has gone before.
Right.
I mean, it was a great time. We volunteered for those things. Many volunteered to get promoted. And yeah, it was hard in those days for us and things like that. But, that was one thing. But don't tell me that
you have to go.
As it's going on right now. These, agents are getting sent every other month. They are being treated like crap. I heard some cases where they would not allow an agent to go home on an emergency until somebody could replace them. Now, they ended up letting them go anyway, right? But to even suggest that at the get-go when somebody has to go home, come on. Right?
Especially during an emergency, yeah.
So throwing bodies they just want to throw bodies at the situation, agents at it, and then try to fill the gap of what? Stopping the illegal flow? No, facilitating the illegal flow.
Exactly.
And they said that we've released 1 million people into the country. Well, we can easily, you and I know, every Border Patrol agent knows, we can easily double that number.
Yep. For sure.
Right? But that's what they're reporting.
Right. Because, just like the COVID, the numbers are all lies. Everybody tells me, well, you never believed in COVID. I was like, I believed in COVID. I just believe the numbers the government was giving us. Because the government will give us the numbers that they want you to hear,
Yes.
And it's just, the chief said when he was in Laredo that in January they caught more fentanyl than they did all year last year. I call bullshit on that. I mean, in 1 month, I mean, we may have caught a lot, but not more than we caught last year, because last year we did a lot of fentanyl. You know, it's like he was talking out of his ass just to get back at the agents. And you know, when that incident happened in Laredo, he bowed up to agents.
Yeah.
He bowed up to agents. Yeah. And you don't know how many agents have told me that, like, man, he's lucky he didn't do that to me. You know, and the agents were actually telling him, he goes, I've been here 31 years. They were like, that's the problem. That's the problem. You've been here 31 years.
Chief, you know? Yeah, and it was sad to watch, Gary. It was like a meltdown / temper tantrum.
That's exactly what it was.
It was horrible because, you know, he should have at least if he didn't agree with them, he should have at least acknowledged and validated what they were experiencing. These guys were stretched to the point where they were willing to stand up and speak like that to their chief. You know what? A lot of people ask me why go ahead.
He should have just told them the truth. Listen, guys, this administration, I got my hands tied. I'm doing what I can, and I'm the best representative you have up there. It may not be what you like. It may not be the way, you know, you want it to be, but I'm the best that you got up there. And I understand.
Find it interesting.
I understand your crisis.
That, you know, his hands are tied, right? Okay, so we do.
I get that.
He can't say everything he wants or everything he should say, whatever. But you know what?
He's playing the game.
He seems awfully free to go the other direction, though.
Exactly.
You know, people ask me all the time, why are you so angry at the chief? Well, actually, not a lot of people, because you know what? It's so funny that nobody, except for maybe 1 or 2 people, have reached out to me to defend him to me. Nobody else has. But why am I so angry at the chief? Well, if you go back to my original post when he got hired, I was wishing him well. Godspeed, God bless. I was hoping for the best. Everybody was hoping for the best.
Because he was a great chief in Texas.
And at the same time, Gary, wondering, why would this administration choose him?
Right.
Okay, and be that as it may, right? Because they fired Chief Scott.
Right.
Right, they
triple R'd him
out because he wouldn't toe the line. So why did this chief give? So I put that aside. Okay, I'm gonna hope for the best. I'm gonna give him the benefit of the doubt. And so when he finally does come out and start to speak, what are the words coming out of his mouth? It's a surge. I worked Brownfield, saw this, all this traffic before. He said that in the beginning, and he said it again at Fox News, that this was nothing we haven't seen before, that we've always had this, that he's seen the same traffic. And again, I say to the chief and to every other Border Patrol agent out there, I challenge you to look at the reality of what's going on and say, you've seen this before. You have not, I have not, nobody in the history of the United States Border Patrol since 1924 has seen this perfect storm of open borders, pandemic, vaccine mandates, completely, no place to turn for these guys. There is literally no place to turn, so don't tell me you've seen this. So believe it or not, me and Chief had a conversation on the phone, and we had it out. You could ask my wife. I mean, I was literally laying
I remember
down.
you telling me about that.
Why would you say it's just a surge or irregular immigration? Chief, why did you stand there in Eagle Pass and say the message has been clear for months, the border is closed? Closed to who?
Right.
Apparently they didn't get the message.
Right.
No agent on the ground sees that the border is closed. So how is the border closed, Chief? And it was nothing but political doublespeak, going back to his glory days, talking about it. And I'm not even going to question that. He was probably 10 times the agent I was out in the field, I'm sure of it. But that right there, and even then, Gary, I backed off. Right. All of a sudden, I'm not, every morning I'd wake up and I would say, okay, is it a crisis yet, Chief? Is it a crisis yet? So I backed away. He told everybody that he gave me a stern talking to. Well, okay, Chief, whatever you say. But I backed away just to give him the benefit of the doubt, because I would rather blaspheme the Pope than to blaspheme my chief of the Border Patrol.
Roger that.
I would rather do that. So anyway, I backed off until that Yuma muster, when I saw Secretary Mamonkas wearing Newton and Azraq's patch on his jacket.
Yep.
And this man is responsible for allowing one of the killers of Newton and Azraq, okay, one of the killers of Newton and Razak to go free and did nothing. And now he gets to
Really?
wear their patches. He gets to wear their patches in public as if what? As if you don't deserve it. You besmirch their memory, you tarnish their memory, and you tarnish our patch, wearing their patch because you let one of their killers go free.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't know that.
Son of a bitch.
Can you elaborate on that? Because I didn't know that. What?
Yeah. You know what? I'll tell you what. Joe Banco documents this in his book.
Oh, no kidding.
You know, the history of the Border Patrol. It is documented fact that he allowed the killers to go free.
Wow.
One of the killers to go free. And this guy's, you know, he's on Facebook now, social media, talking about how his life is so different. You know, good for you. He
was on TV yesterday. They showed him on Newsmax, and he was saying that the border's in the shape that it was in because they inherited it from Trump because the last administration.
Is that some bullshit or what?
Yes, it was inhumane and unsatisfactory way he handled the border. We had nobody coming in. We had caravans of tens of thousands of people coming, and they stopped right at Mexico because they wouldn't come across. Because Trump was like, "Don't you dare come over here," and he told Mexico, "Don't you dare let them across. You better do your part and keep them out of my country." Yeah,
well, he said I'm not interested in border security. I'm interested in justice for those families that got separated. I mean, they wanted to pay them $450,000 a piece. Are you kidding me? Are you free? That you would even suggest that is, I mean, it has gone to the point, Gary, of being completely ridiculous. So when the chief, you know, when I saw that, and then I saw how the chief reacted to guys that were so brokenhearted, so disappointed, so let down in their spirits, and he's playing this "I know you are, but what am I" game with them, right? They said, "Chief, you can't even say illegal immigration," and what does he say? You just did.
Right.
Oh, I just did, Chief. I want to hear you say it.
I know you are, but what am I?
I know, like he's playing this game, and you know, then he says, the guy says, you know, basically the agent was saying, "You're making it hard for me to fulfill my oath," and he's like, "It ain't hard for me.
Right.
It ain't hard for me to say it.
I must be more of a man than you."
But what's worse, Gary? What's worse is that, did you see that nauseating, freaking putrid, disgusting display of that little love fest they had together, Mayorkas and Mamoncas
yes.
and Ortiz? And they sat there and broadcasted that nationally to every agent out there, right? DHS, CBP-wide, and badmouth those agents for speaking up to them. "Oh, I was so disappointed, Chief. It was unprofessional. I had never seen anything like that in the Border Patrol, and it really took me by surprise." And the chief sitting there nodding his head, basically kicking his guys under the bus. And I'll tell you something, I worry about those agents, the agent that took the video, the agents that stood up. I hope to God that they're not going after those guys and being to prosecute or persecute them or discipline them. Although in my gut, I get the feeling they are.
Well,
you know, so,
I heard that OPR is going after the horse patrol agents, even though the Border Patrol said they wouldn't. OPR said, "You know what? We're going to." So it's kind of
so DHS doesn't want to. Everybody's giving this down the way, but OPR is going to do their due diligence when there was literally nothing you could point to. And again, I asked the chief in the phone, "Chief, why didn't you speak up for them? Why didn't you, stand up for them?" Because he's the horse patrol guy, right? That's his claim to fame. You know, I trainer, everything else. He could have gone out and said, "You know what? Don't know what's going on just yet. We're taking all the facts, but I can tell you one thing: we have the best riders and the horse riders in the country,
and we do
the best trained horse riders. And they don't train with whips; they're not issued whips, so there was no whips out there. Okay, so we'll get a hold of the facts and we'll make our decision. And so his hands were tied that he couldn't even say that.
No, he's a coward. Is what he is.
Yeah.
He's a coward, and he's a yes. He became a yes man, which is what really disappoints me because, like I said, I know agents that have worked for him when he was chief in Del Rio and in RGV. You know, I forgot which sector, but he was down there somewhere. And I know agents that worked for him. My buddy John Parham says, "Dude, he was a great chief when he was here. He was an agent's chief, but put him up there, and it's a completely different thing."
Well, I can tell you that a lot of guys have reached out to me saying, "You know what, Raul is my friend. We work together." But he goes, "But they I don't understand what he's trying to do right now, you know." And I've heard a lot of different things, right? Well, he's holding the spot so that no civilian gets it. Well, okay, but what's the difference?
Right.
Okay, we got Mamoncas in office. We got Magnets as CBP commissioner. You know, what's the difference?
Another liberal Democrat.
Yeah, and that's the bottom line. Is like, and you know what? He's the smartest one of them all, Gary.
Right.
He doesn't. You see him. He doesn't associate too much with Mamoncas and Ortiz. Right. He goes on his own. He goes quietly. He talks to the agents, whatever. And for whatever that is, we have yet to see and hear what he's going to bring to the table. But a guy I don't have much hope for a guy that's walking around holding Black Lives Matter as a police chief holding up Black Lives Matter sign, because it's a Marxist organization. We all know it. It's a proven fact. So I don't have a lot of hope for that. So I've kept quiet about him for the most part to see what he does. But he is smarter than the other two, because he's kept himself under the radar and done things, his stuff quietly. I know he's going visiting sectors and talking to the guys, but one thing he did say at the Yuma muster, an agent asked him directly, isn't this more of a policy issue than a manpower issue? And he said, absolutely not. There is nothing wrong with this administration's policy. We just got to get you more bodies. What does that tell you? More manpower. That tells you they don't want to stop the flow. They want to facilitate the flow, because somehow they have an idea that all these people are going to vote, are going to register Democrat and vote and be the new voting base, because no thinking American would vote for these jackasses. And right, it's a good and that's what their sign is. I find that laughable. But anyway,
the part that I don't get, Gil, is that everything that this administration, all these Democrats do to this country, they got to live here too.
Yeah.
You know what? You know, I mean, yeah, they're getting money on the side. Yeah, this is all lying in their pockets, and they're the elite, and what applies to thee doesn't apply to me, and all that. But they have to live in this country too. Why would they want to destroy their country? I've never understood that. I used to think everybody was entitled to their own opinion. I used to think, hey, your politics, my politics, we don't have to agree. We got different views. But you know what? In the past 5-10 years, I've come to determine that the Democratic Party is just evil. It is, and they've got the bad things on their mind for this country, because all they want to do is destroy it and treat us like the Ukraine's being treated right now, or the Canadians are being treated right now.
Yeah. Well, Gary, you know what? They don't want to destroy the country. They want to remake it, reshape it.
Right.
And they are willing to sacrifice every last American to do it.
Exactly.
That's the bottom line.
Yep, and it's a sad day, because this is still even though the way things are now, this is still the best country in the world. This is still, and people don't see it.
By default, it is. Yes.
And it just pisses me off, Gil. But you know what? I really think that you need to be careful what you say about the chief sometimes, because he may not come and do anything about it, but his girlfriend's gonna kick your ass, man. His girlfriend's gonna kick your ass.
I'll be honest with you, man. I fear her. I sometimes do stay awake at night, more afraid of her than anybody else in management or in government right now. Yeah, because I keep thinking the black SUV is going to show up, or some black helicopters, and I'll end up in some unmarked grave in Juarez.
With the rest of the bodies.
But that's the thing, it's heartbreaking. This suicide today, the suicides before, more Border Patrol agents have died under the watch of this chief than any other in all the years past. This last year was the worst. Now, I'm not saying he's directly responsible for that, but what I am saying is, and this is what I told the chief on the phone, Chief, you're going to need to find a way, number one, to convince the agents in the field that you're in this with them. The only way you can do that is to at least admit that this situation is untenable, unsustainable, and a wreck. Right. Even Mamoncas has gone on TV and said it's a mess. But he can't. He won't.
Right.
And now he's on a tear all across the country, going to sectors, trying to jump in on ops with the agents, trying to get agents to volunteer to work with them. They don't. They have to be mandated, and then they have to be warned not to say anything to his face. What kind of leader is that has to be coddled and protected from the truth from his people on the ground? But here's the thing, and here's what I got from from the phone calls, and that's why I don't reach out to him anymore, because he still to this day thinks that it's only a few disgruntled that don't like him, a few loudmouths like me and a few others, but everybody else thinks he's doing a fantastic job.
Right.
And so convinced of that, he doesn't see the damage he's doing to the agents' minds and hearts and psyches on the ground. And I hear guys say, you know what, they need to suck it up. Back in the day, you know, we had it just as bad and we had to suck it up. You know what? It's true. Law enforcement as a whole comes at a high stress all the time. There's a thread of tension that from the moment you put the uniform on till the moment you get home, and agents have to find a way to deal with that constant tension and stress all the time. Some do it healthy and some not so much. And this situation does not, you know, it adds to that fuel. And I think the worst thing about this is, Gary, is that their best solution to this whole situation, because they don't call it a crisis, it's a surge, it's a humanitarian push, we're just in a little bit of a, you know, rush right now, is EAP, free EAP and agent resiliency programs. So imagine that I put you on this torture rack and just sit next to you and you're being stretched and, you know, disemboweled and your bones are cracking and breaking and you're like, you know, make it stop. And I'm like, no, you know what? We can't make it stop, but let's talk about your resilience. Right. And you're doing a great job. These guys are drowning and then being applauded for thrashing hard.
Right.
It boggles the mind.
Yeah, and you know, at one point I thought that Sylvester Reyes was the worst chief that we had for a while, you know, and again, in Ortiz's defense, everybody I know says he was a great chief when he was a sector chief. So I don't know what changed in the man, and the leadership that he's providing, it's like he's out there for himself. You know, the leadership that he's providing is inadequate. You know,
well, even worse, and I think it's even more than that. It seems like even when Mamoncas has slipped and said, you know, that this is a bad situation, the whole country recognizes this as a crisis. He's like the sole survivor holding out. But I almost starting to get the feeling that he's doing everything to protect this administration. Like
right.
He goes out of his way. It's one thing to say your hands are tied, and I can understand a lot of that. I can. But his hands aren't tied when it comes to saying and doing detrimental things to the agents in the field, and he has no concept of what the effect he's having on those guys.
And you know what? Let's say for an example that he is actually being ordered to do that. I want you to put down the agents. I want you to break their morale. I want you to break their spirits. As a PA himself, he should just quit. Yes. Be like, you know what? Fuck off. I'm not doing it. Those are my agents, you know? I've been out of the patrol since 2004, and I still consider myself green, and I'll still do anything for a PA, you know?
Yes. Even retired, brother, even retired, none of us would hesitate to take a bullet for our fellow agents. Exactly. Or even for a straight, if I'm carrying and someone else is being shot at or attacked, I'm willing to take a bullet for a total stranger with my family standing by and watching. So all of us have made that oath. All of us have honored that oath. And I just think to myself, you know what? Again, trying to give this chief the benefit of the doubt back in the day, seeing that Rodney Scott got booted out for standing firm against illegal immigration and against, for secure borders. How does this guy get chosen then? Right. That's the part that I don't get. How do they comfortably pick another guy that might do the same thing Rodney did? Well, they knew he wouldn't.
Right. They wanted the complete opposite of Rodney.
They must have known he wasn't going to fight them. And so, going out there, and I remember too, the agents saying to him, because that sector chief in Clem is he cleans up the sector for Mamoncas to show up, for Chief to show up, for these senators to show up, even for McConnell, who's a Republican, to show up. They clean the house, let him see what's going on, right?
Exactly.
And the agents who cleaned up the place tell them to their face, Chief, why are we cleaning up for all these VIPs to show up? And he says to them to their face, right, the guys that did it, he doesn't understand the audience he's talking to. We didn't do that. Now, how am I supposed to have faith in you, Chief? How am I supposed to believe
when you're lying to my face,
your leadership, when you're telling me I didn't do something I know I did?
Exactly.
Right? And that's what has got everybody just going nuts right now. And the agents just don't know where to turn, because now you speak the truth to the chief. Guess what? Yuma gave up the names of all the agents that spoke up to the chief. The chief thanked them in a nationwide pack call. The chief thanked them for basically kicking those guys into the bus and giving up their names. Not that he couldn't have found out anyway, but you know what? Those agents get kicked under the bus. The agents in Laredo are. It seems to me, that they're being persecuted. They're gonna pursue discipline on those guys for that. And I'll tell you what, those guys have become, heroes of the patrol, because they said everything to his face that all of us had in our heart, and they're going to be martyred for it.
And you can tell that when that video came out, you can tell that they were holding back because they really wanted to say "fuck you, Chief," but they were being respectful, and they were like, "Chief, that's," and They even said when what that one agent says, when good men do nothing, evil triumphs.
Yes. And he's trying to call out stats, right? Because here's another thing. So one of the questions I get a lot on my messages, because I wake up to messages, a mountain of messages every day from agents all across the country. I had a phone call, Gary, with one female agent who literally couldn't catch her breath talking to me because her and her husband have been on deployment for every other month. They miss each other. They've missed family and everything else like that. And I wake up to all that all day, every day. The heartbreak and disheartening all across the country of these agents, and they just don't seem to want to acknowledge. They're throwing solutions without even identifying the problem and cherry picking the problem so that they can offer the solutions that are good for their ego, are good for them, but not for the agents on the ground.
And Gil, you've been doing a great job of keeping everybody informed on Old Patrol HQ, on Facebook, on Instagram, and everything that you put out there is just legit, But there are a lot of people that have been going on your website that have been getting in trouble, haven't they?
Yes, that's another thing is that I got word, and not by one person, but 5 or 6, that at the musters they were saying, you know what? We can't do a lot about what Maza puts on Old Patrol HQ. He's a retired agent, so there's not much they can do about that. But there's a lot we can do about you guys who post on his page and post comments on his page. So they have warned them that if they exercise their freedom to comment on something I post,
freedom
on
of
my
speech,
page, they're going to get yes, and also not only that, but people are losing details, Gary. People are losing their details for posting on my site.
Wow.
That's
so if that isn't a freaking witch hunt, what is?
Yes. So as you and I both know that they are paying taxpayer money to agents and employees of DHS and CBP to literally pour over my page every single day. Right. I know that a lot of sectors, especially HQ, opens up their Stratcom with what I posted the night before. Right. And right now for them, it's all about damage control, damage
because
control.
You're speaking the truth and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah. So anything they can do to distract from the message. Another thing that's going on is the sectors post every single day all their trophy shots, all the drugs that they're catching in their bodies, and they are doing that work. And I don't diminish that, and I don't diminish the agents that are out there really wanting to do the job.
Right.
But they're painting a picture as if everything's cool. The phrases on the posts are like, protecting America, securing America. Are we? I know that any agent worth his salt is making a good faith effort to fulfill their oath out there, but either you're probably processing. 90% of us are in there processing. The mountain it takes to take people to the hospital. Everybody that gets a sniffle goes to the hospital. People hurt themselves, jump in the fence, all those things all day long across all sectors. We have spent more billions of dollars in daily rescues since this administration started than we have probably collectively in the rest of the history of the patrol. We've always had to rescue people.
I get it, yeah.
Always. But look at the daily.
I've jumped in the river after people.
Yeah, but now it's like a full-time job to rescue people, and that's at the cost. What do you think it costs to send a helicopter, medics and Borstar and everything else? It's not cheap. We're spending millions of dollars a day, hemorrhaging millions of dollars a day doing that. When back in the day it was, it was common. and we all did it across the sectors, yes. But now it is almost a full-time job for us to rescue, to process, and to house and maintain and feed and hospital and everything else, babies, children, especially all those things.
You know, and I said that a while ago. I said, you know, I said that the problem here is the Border Patrol is a law enforcement agency. It's an apprehension agency. If we catch people, we'll keep them through the weekend till they see the magistrate on Monday, you know. But we're not designed to be a corrections agency. We're not a detention agency. You know, that's what DRO is for, or ICE or whatever, because they have the facilities for that. That's their job. But we don't. But they're making us do it. They're making the Border Patrol agents do it, a job that wasn't in our job description, a job that we're not really trained to do, taking care of people for, not taking care of people, but taking care of people for such an extended period of time, you know?
Well, not only that, okay, so I remember back in the day when if you had an illegal alien in a cell more than 4 hours without them being processed and ready to go, you had to write a memo or let your chief, let your pack know why he's been there so long. Now they pack 50, 60, 70 bodies in a 12-body cell. And the humanity that comes with that, Gary, there are rapes. There are gangs within those groups that withhold the food of everybody else. In other words, you can go in and serve everybody food, and they'll take the food away from a lot of these guys.
I've seen it.
Sometimes we find out later, like, what happened to you? Oh, I'm hungry. Well, we gave you food. But they won't let us have it. They won't let us eat it. So you got now we're corrections officers. Officers and dealing with, you know, people literally having sex in the cells with all the other people packed in right next to them. It's like that's not what our job description was.
Gil, and you know what's scary? Job. You know what's scary is I've seen everything that you just said right there, right? The taking of the food, the gang rapes, the fights, and everything. You know where I've seen all that? In the early 90s when I was in the Coast Guard. The first time Haiti overthrew Aristide, we had all the Haitians on a ship. They were doing that on our flight deck. We'd have up to 750 Haitians on our flight deck, bringing them to Guantanamo Bay. And we were inside ready with fire hoses and rifles, because the fire hoses was the primary, and then the secondary in case they broke the skin of the ship. But all of that stuff right there, I seen on the flight deck with my own eyes.
Yeah.
And what are we letting into the country a lot now? Haitians.
Yeah, and you know, and they are letting everybody go. I mean, there have been busloads and busloads and busloads, not only of people getting dropped off at the airport, getting flown, along with the agents that are flying home to the northern border. They're flying with the plane load of people they just processed. Right. First of all, but all through San Diego and El Centro, there are buses. There we drop them off in hotels. In this case, here in San Diego sector, we're dropping them off at the Oceanside Sheridan, okay, for a week or two stay, with limo buses coming to pick them up to take them to San Diego Airport or to LAX, and feeding them and giving them. They had that, you know, you have to give them money to spend on food and everything else that they need, right? So all that's going on all the way across the board, and it's just, I mean, people don't even really, even the people that are trying real hard to accurately report what's going on, Ali Bradley, Christina Aguayo, Sydney Hernandez, Anna Giartelli, right? Jenny Terr, they're like committed. Some of them aren't even, are politically, you can't even tell what they are. I mean, they make people angry because they don't, but they're that objective. Right. And even what they're reporting, the people don't understand. It's worse than you think. It's worse than you think. And of course, a lot of people are saying, you know what, I'm not hearing about any crisis on the news. I'm not hearing about stuff. What's the big problem? And so little by little, I think they're actually succeeding in pushing away the crisis into the back of in the back of the minds of the psyche of America. And there's going to come a time when people are going to embrace what the chief says. There was never a crisis. It wasn't really a surge, man. We've seen this before. You know, it's no big deal. And America's going to go up. Yeah, well, I guess you're right. And we're going to just blithely, like lemmings, go on our merry way. But we're not going to let that happen, Gary. We're not going to let people forget. And leave our agents hanging high and dry, literally drowning in bodies, drowning in people, in a sea of people, with an administration that has facilitated the biggest taxpayer-funded smuggling event in the history of America.
Exactly. And Gil, before you came along, I've had agents from across the southern border always reach out to me because, I'm in contact with some news people. I know a lot of them personally because I've been after my pardon for 20 years,
Yes.
And years ago, I had a agent that was my partner, and he's out in Arizona, who recently retired. And you remember the Border Patrol tried putting out this medal if you didn't shoot. All right. If you got to a situation and didn't shoot, they were going to give you a medal for it. So now, and it was a real thing. And we put it out on the news, and they squashed it real quick because you're going to have agents second-guessing themselves. Well, I want a medal. I'm not going to shoot. I want to get this medal. And you're going to end up getting people killed. It's the stupidest thing that the Border Patrol ever did. And I think that was under the time that FBI guy was the chief, that they brought in that guy that was FBI and made him the chief.
Mark Morgan?
Was it Mark Morgan?
He's the only one that...
But he was the head of CBP. This guy was a Border Patrol chief in uniform.
Okay.
That they gave. It wasn't Morgan. But yeah, okay. So they we squashed that real quick. And you've been a big voice for the Border Patrol. You have been for many years, and I've been trying to always support the agents because agents can't speak for themselves. We're not allowed to.
Well, that's right. So I remember a couple of years ago, just listening by accident, listening to your story. And I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but I had to call you. And I did.
I still remember where I was. I was with my mom in my truck about to get into a car wash. And
And I had, you had already gone through years and years and years of your struggle to right a wrong that was done to you, right? Being accused of those things and being actively, basically persecuted by the people, the prosecutors in those days that wanted your head for some reason. And
incarcerated.
You finally got that. But you finally got that pardon, and everybody knows that story, of course, except a couple of knuckle draggers,
Right.
But that's the thing. It's like, man, I lost my train of thought, right?
Right. But no, we're being the voices for the Border Patrol.
Right. Okay. So that was not my intention. My intention was to funnel all the information from the sectors through my page, be a one-stop shop for all things Border Patrol, laugh about our jokes, about our history, keep the mythology alive, our mythos alive, that we're this agency and we are. That has not changed. The current situation, Gary, is not a reflection on our agents. Right. In the slightest. It is a reflection on this administration and the leadership of DHS and CBP that have made the Border Patrol agents and tarnished our legacy, dishonored our legacy, and made us complicit in facilitators of this freaking smuggling event.
Of course. Yep.
This non-going smuggling event that has no end in sight. That's already doubled the numbers this January of last year. It's already double.
Yep. Okay.
So we're on track to double the numbers of last year, which is 2 million. And it's Border Patrol agents, OFO and CBP personnel that are facilitating this flow into the country.
It's insane.
We can't, and our hands are tied. We can't do a darn thing about it.
It's insane. It's shameful. It's a total fucking disgrace for every citizen in the United States. For every American here, they don't know what's going on the border. People up in New York, people up in, Nevada and they know about illegal immigration, but they don't know really what's happening,
Yeah. And so I wake up one morning and all of a sudden I hear people are writing me a message going, you're the only one defending us. You're the one. And I know I'm not. Mm-hmm. I know I'm absolutely not the only one. But they're saying, we don't have a voice. They are so scared, Gary, so scared to be fired or disciplined for expressing themselves, for saying what they mean. One of the ways that certain people tried to get me discredited is by referring to me as a 1015, as if my page is nowhere near what the 1015 page was.
Doing, yeah.
And by the time that thing was closed down, it was the filthiest, most disgusting thing that it was just done wrong. It was just done wrong.
I'm a little unorthodox myself, and even I wasn't on that.
Yeah. Now the funny thing is that people are like, you know what, you got spies in your page. You can't have spies if you tag the people that I tag them all.
Right.
I've been above board since the beginning. I've been wide open since the beginning. Anybody, and then people are like, well, you should privatize the page. It should just be private Border Patrol. Well, first of all, we have plenty of pages that are secret. Border Patrol is supposedly secret. And second of all, I've been wide open about this whole thing, and I've allowed family members and friends and people of Border Patrol to join and everything else. We've had a few knuckleheads, and we weed them out as best we can as we go. But you can't spy on a page that is completely, I'm an open book.
Right.
I'm a completely open book. And
transparency.
I track Border Patrol, CBP, DHS, everybody in my post. So I'm right here.
Right.
I'm not hiding. You know, if you can dispute or I'm completely wrong, I have yet to hear from anybody, right? Again, that defends this administration, that defends this chief, except for maybe one or two people tops that reached out to me offline saying, you know, why are you attacking my friend? Well, okay, sorry about that, buddy. But this is way beyond that.
Right.
This is way beyond that. It's the agents, southern and northern border, are being crushed, right, by the disastrous immigration policies of this administration, which basically they have no policy, they have no plan, but they do have a plan.
Exactly.
You know, I might have misspoke when I said they're oblivious, because no, I think and
they know exactly what they're doing.
They know what they're doing, and it's all going according to plan. Now, that might have been a Freudian slip on Mamonka's part, but you know what? I tend to believe it's true.
Exactly, brother. Exactly. You know, we got about 6 minutes left, and I wanted to tell you, I visited with an old partner of mine this weekend, Hector, down in Uvalde, and he was a running and gunning agent, big Boar Star agent. His picture's in the Border Patrol Museum, and he's a big Christian, just like yourself, just like me. And I got to visit him. I hadn't seen him in a long, long time, and you know, he's in a wheelchair. He's got MS now, and dude, it was great because I hadn't seen him. I'm going to his house, and he calls me, and he's like, "Hey, Gary, when you get here, just come on in. The front door's open. I have a little bit of a situation. I kind of ended up on the ground." I was like, "What?" He goes, "I'm not hurt. I'm fine. I'm just, you know, I can't get up, so I might need your help getting up." So I hit the gas a little bit. I get there. I walk on his porch. He's like, "Come on in, Gary. Door's open." I walk in. He's just lying there on the ground. He's like, "Hey, what's up?" And I'm looking down. I'm like, "What's up, Hector?" And then I was like, "How do I get you up?" He goes, "Hold on, man. Just let me lie here for a minute." So I kind of sat on his fireplace and like, "So how you been?" He's lying on the ground. He's like, "I'm all right, I guess." But man, but we were talking. He was in class. I forgot what it was. It was 29 something, I think. Anyway, it was early '96, and we were talking about the new patrol that there is now, and we were talking about our experiences together because he was my partner a lot of times, and we were talking about the old days, and he's like, "Yeah, we're not. They don't cut them from the same mold as we were anymore, you know." And these new agents, this new patrol, they'll never know the things that we did, you know. They'll never know the way it was before cameras, when we used to have to sign cut, you know. When we used to have to go out there, when we had the mag lights with the dead battery so we can cut the sign better, you know. And I told him, I said, and of course, we'll never know what agents in the 70s and 80s were like, you know, because that's a whole other different mold.
That was a whole other thing. And then before that, right, that was a whole other thing.
And it just goes, but our generation, and I think I include you in this, but especially me, because I was towards the end, we were the last of the old patrol, man. The last of the old patrol. Because that,
well, right. Everybody, you know, defines it a little bit there. But let me just say this, okay? It is true that today's agents are not free to patrol and to enforce the many ways you and I got to enforce, in the many ways all the way back to 2024 didn't get to enforce. But I will say this: we got guys all across these sectors that are legend epic sign cutters, and we got guys on our freeways that can sniff dope better than a canine. Mm-hmm. To this day, if they had been born, Gary, 20, 30 years ago, we would be asking them on our podcast to tell us about the good old days, right? Because they are that good. So the situation has changed, but the thread that connects us to the agents from 1924 till today is still as strong and solid as it's ever been.
The esprit de corps. The esprit de corps that the Border Patrol has.
True. You know, like you said, you know where the bodies are buried. There's stuff that you can't even talk about because the statute of limitations has not ended. So these guys have not had the freedom to be let loose and patrol the border like Jeff Milton did back in the day, right?
Right.
But are they be as good sign cutters, as good law enforcement, and as good patrol. I call it good patrol. You hear on Chicago
police.
PD, right?
It's good police.
Yeah, good police, right? Well, they were good patrol then. These guys are good patrol now. Sincere, on fire, passionate, and they know their damn jobs better than anybody.
Right.
In fact, one guy in particular in El Cajon, I remember him sign cutting with his map on his smartphone, and that guy, I was lost. Right, and he knew where he was going. He knew where they were going to go. He'd map and he'd pinpoint on his GPS. I mean, he was using technology, and he was one of the best sign cutters I have ever seen. And I myself, average agent, so I'm not even putting myself out like that. But Tom Johnson, I got Eric Curtis, a lot of guys from El Cajon, Spear Cop, guys from El Cajon. My brain forgets, but. They do exist, and they are here now.
We had an old PA like that in Eagle Pass. We used to call him Sapo. Yeah, he had no neck. You like this. Oh, yeah, wait, ¿qué tienes? And I swear at one point this dude must have been a smuggler, because this dude was just, he can sign cut. He'd be like, look, there's the sign. I'm like, I don't see shit, And he's like, camina, and he'd push me, camina. I'd be like, I can't. Yeah. And we'd follow a group for 10, 15 miles, and he'd follow the trails. And he'd find the tuna, the sardine cans. What he'd eat, he goes, ya mismo tiene que cagar, and then sure as hell, we'd find a place where they use the restroom. He goes, ya van a dormir, and
absolutely.
And 4 or 5 hours down the road,
those guys are still with us.
Yep, we still catch them.
They're just in a situation where they just have, up until a certain point, they have not. They now are, inundated in this political bullshit. And we've had political bullshit the whole time in the patrol. If you read back in the day, and I know you're running out of time, but you read back in the day, they used to complain about manpower. They used to complain about funds and about budgets and everything else. That's never changed.
Right.
So a lot of things, are the same. But this particular situation and this particular point in time, there has been nothing like it in the history of the Border Patrol, and I'll go as far as to say the history of America.
Exactly. Because I tell you what, compared to when we were in, and you got to experience it because you just retired, I didn't, but the Border Patrol is one of the most well-equipped agencies right now, man. We have stuff that other agencies wish they had, Yeah. And I wish I would have been able to be there to experience it, man. But Gil, we are about out of time. If you can say one thing or give a message to the chief, go for it.
Well, I'll say, you know what, Chief? At this point, I don't know what could return your credibility. I'm sorry that things worked out this way for you. But on the other hand, if you don't find a way to identify and admit that we are in a horrible situation, that our agents are literally over their heads, and jump in there with them, let them know that you're with them, you're never going to regain your credibility. You're never going to be able to lead these guys the way they need to be led. You can only push loyal people so far, Chief, and then it's to the breaking point. And to the agents out there, those of you who are out there struggling, let me tell you, this too shall pass. Hopefully in November, remember November stuff, things will change, things will shift. But even if they don't, hold on to what you have. You work too hard for it, because I tell you, the retirement in this job is glorious, man. And you want to get there. So don't lose hope, and stay firm, stay focused, stay safe.
Amen to that, brother. Chief, just like Gil said, to us, you're still a PA. Whatever happens. Turn it around, and turn it around. We need you to protect us. You're our chief. That's all I can tell you. I mean, and remember, it's going to be your legacy, because the Border Patrol is all about legacy.
Oh, yeah.
Gil's going down for being a Border Patrol historian. I'm going down for being the one that's sent to prison. That's my legacy, for doing my job. And your legacy is going to be a turncoat. Don't do it. Turn around. Protect your agents, Chief.
Yeah.
All right. Honor first, Gil.
I can't wait to see you in Freedom Fest
next week,
March 4th. I'll be there from the 4th through the 6th, and man, I look forward to meeting you in person, brother, and drinking a beer together and giving you a big hug and kiss on the lips.
Let's do it, baby. Let's do it.
Yeah.
No time.
I heard you're a great kisser.
You heard correct. Honor first, brother.
Honor always.
All right, Poppy. Let's roll this one out, because I got to tell you.
Shit is real. Shit is getting real. Woo! Bitch, I'm scared.
Oh, hell. I don't have Big Daddy Roughneck here with me today, but this concludes another episode of the Gary Brugman Podcast. I want to thank my brother Gil Maza from O Patrol HQ for being here. Make sure you follow him at O Patrol HQ on Instagram and go to opatrolhq.bigcartel.com and get all your Border Patrol swag over there. And catch you guys next time. Gil, thanks for being here, brother.
Love you, bro.
Thank you so much, brother. Y'all stay safe, stay vigilant, be savage. God bless y'all. God bless Texas. God bless America. And California, too. California, too.